Hey there, YouTube. What's going on? Welcome back to another VTI Legends Corner video. I'm your host and officer, Orange Leader 398, and I got a couple special guests here with me today. We got ZestyFresh and Killjoy. Why don't you guys go ahead and say hi?
Going on?
Hello.
Alright. Well, I think we got ourselves a pretty good topic today to talk about. We're going to be talking about early teams to farm, depending on what you want to do with this game. Now, I broke this video down into 4 different segments, kind of based on what people enjoy most about this game. We got raids, GAC, territory wars, and territory battles. So, we're going to kind of do each one of those individually. I got my picks on the screen, and then we can definitely add your guys's as well, and talk about them as we go through. So we're going to start off with GAC farms, and what you can kind of do early on as a farm. Personally, I'm a big fan of 4 teams. They're pretty easy early on teams to farm. I got the Qui-Gon Delete, with Qui-Gon Jinn, Jedi Knight Anakin, and Ahsoka Tano. You guys can agree to disagree, but once you have the Omi on Qui-Gon, he is huge in early game. Very easy to farm for that team. I mean, heck, you start out with Jedi Knight Anakin and Ahsoka Tano, and then Qui-Gon is a Galactic March farm. So once you hit level 40, you can start earning his shards. And then you're pretty good to go. Next, I got Wham Bam, Mrs. Wampa herself, because she is an absolute beast. I also got Savage Opress, which is very nice because all 3 of these teams are able to be farmed elsewhere, separate from each other, so they can all be farmed at the same time. Because Wampa is with guild currency, Savage Press is squad arena currency, and then Anakin and Ahsoka. Anakin you find with standard energy, and Ahsoka has a Cantina spot. So, very easy to be able to farm all 3 of these teams very early on, and as soon as you enter a guild and hit that level 40. So, Zesty, what do you think when you think of early Grand Arena farms? What do you kind of tend to lean towards as kind of like a couple of your primary thoughts?
So, I just got into Grand Arena, right? Because I really didn't pay too much attention to it, and now with the crystal shift, it's kind of been something I can't really put off anymore, especially with my power creep just going up and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I agree with some of your early farms. I run those teams too. I have my squads put up here on the side. I'm scrolling through them right now. I just actually replaced my current defense, so I have Qui-Gon and friends like you do. I don't have Wampa on this account, but I run it on my alt, and at Relic 5, it's super awesome. Now you run Savage Press by himself. That's on offense, I assume, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. How high are you overswinging with that?
Definitely towards the Relic 2, Relic 3 Grievous grinds. Sometimes I'll even throw them in with other just random teams where I'm like, okay, this team's a little shaky. Let's throw Savage in there. He is going to be an absolute tank and hold the team together because they'll get him to target Savage, and then the rest of my team can kind of do its thing unhindered. So sometimes it's a lead role, sometimes it's a good support role.
Gotcha. Well, because when we get to the point where we have some of the things we talked about earlier before we prep for this, we have to take into account, right? Like with Crate coming out, there's been a huge shift to like the old farming plan that Arnold puts out. I love it. I think it's great.
Oh yeah, great
I follow
stuff.
a slightly different version of it for one of my accounts, but recently, my alt went with a Jedi Master Luke target, super streamlined, everything it takes to get first thing right there. Now, as soon as I get Jedi Knight Luke, I'm pivoting to Jabba.
Okay.
Right? You know, so I think Savage Press is really awesome because it's a background farm, right? While you're doing other stuff, you get him in isn't it the Galactic War store?
The arena store. As I know, my
Either
alt
way,
is
he's not a terrible farm.
no, not at all.
Oh, the Squad Arena store. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
get that fine. Yeah,
Oh
that's like
yeah.
it's
Oh
a
yeah.
background farm, right?
Yeah.
So you'll get
Absolutely.
that. Wampa, so that's interesting now because again, like C point A, like shift to crate.
Yeah.
Wampa and Hoda are gonna. I mean, they even moved Gas and Malik there
Yeah. I mean,
to
they
to
made
the
those
raid 2
characters
materials.
very accessible.
You know, so that's gonna streamline a lot of guild progress to start unlocking some higher tier stuff.
Okay. So, in your GAC farm, if you were to kind of start a newer, lower account, if you're going to do like a JMK, then pivot to Java, would you probably suggest like Rebels and then Bounty Hunters as like a good early farm to kind of help build that foundation as you go through the game?
So yeah, with my alt that's being more competitive on the GAC side, I have a modified Imperial Troopers. I'm currently farming Veers right now to actually
Okay.
round that out. But I have it's Veers, Gideon, Dark, Range, and Stark.
Okay.
Right. So those are going to be repurposed down the road, right? This is an efficiency account.
Yep.
So I have Mando, right? But like the reason I have Mando, oddly enough, that pack that came out not too long ago, on my alt account, I got 330 shards for Mon Mothma. So Mon
Oh.
Mothma is gonna borrow my Cara Dune that I used to farm Bando,
Okay.
and now I'm gonna have a constantly taunting thing like that. When I got Wedge and Biggs for the Jedi Knight Luke farm, for Jedi Master Luke rather.
Okay.
I might still do him at the same time I start working on some Java stuff.
Okay.
But like, I'm trying to like really streamline everything I can. So Rebels is really good. You don't have to go mock my Rebel fighters, but um, uh,
Yeah.
who's a really good lead for that? If you're willing to farm 3-pack really early on, they had one that came out that was really underappreciated. It was an old Ben lead with 3-pack. And
Yeah.
when he made everybody have blind, right? Every time somebody missed, you were just ramping turn meter. It was almost like a Rebel Imperial Troopers,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you're willing to farm 3-pack, like that's a totally viable team pretty early on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
if we're talking like brand new spanking account, they're really pushing hard on getting your Anakin team straight up right out, like out of the gate.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
they're pushing First Order and Ray.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you got some good early options for First Order as well. Killjoy, what do you think would be a good early farm if you're more GAC focused, in your opinion?
So unfortunately, all my alts that I have going on at the moment
Uh-huh.
are when they were started, I was trying to streamline for SLKR.
Okay.
This was before the crate came out. And so while I'm still working on that, I still, everybody starts with Phoenix for that very first team. Hasn't helped me much besides progression into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I've started doing Savage myself
Okay.
to use him for GAC, just for the early wins type deal in the beginning.
Yeah.
And now that crate has actually come out, I'm focusing on going towards getting Boba out of the shop and Cantina nodes.
Okay.
I'm just doing that pivot right there towards, instead of First Order, going for the Bounty Hunters and Hut Cartel. Pretty much.
Okay.
Anything I can do to try and get myself into a position for R8 materials as early as possible, I feel would help not just myself, but the guild.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that'll definitely come down in our next topic as well, being that we're going to talk about raid teams and kind of if you want to focus on raids and getting those materials very early on, a lot of the previous farming guides did talk heavily about SOKR, because that, if you have a whole guild of SOKR, you can go through that sea pit and run through that. Well, sea pit doesn't exist anymore. It's a crate.
Exactly.
Dragon hunt. So, yeah, a lot of people have switched away. But if we're just focused on GAC right now, do you think SOKR is still a good, viable early farm if you want to be very GAC focused? You know, don't really care much about raids. You'll do them, but you don't really care. You know, you'll get your points with your few characters, but you're really GAC focused.
SLKR can still get major holds early on.
Mm-hmm.
Even on my main account where I run into him, I don't have a good counter for him. So if they place him on defense, I'm practically stonewalled in whatever sector he's placed, because I just don't have enough teams to either throw at him, or I don't have the correct counters for him. So in that aspect, I feel he's still good at either being a stonewall placement on defense or being used for offense as well. So he does still work in GAC.
Okay.
And I believe there are 2 different first order teams you can make out of it that are very effective.
Yeah, definitely. And a few of them we could also talk about in the TW as well.
I was going to say Phasma and Wacom.
Yeah.
Definitely overlap.
Yeah. So we'll get to that one a little bit later. But yeah, SOKR I think would be a good early GAC farm if that's kind of your focus. Now,
And that does cover multiple things with just a single character push. Like that
yeah.
still covers multiple aspects of the game, minus the raid, of course, but still helps out.
I
with
think
a
if
lot
you're
of
willing to
removes.
do what I was originally going to do, which was like, so, and it's still what I'm doing for Jedi Knight Loop right now, but like, so I'm farming all the tunes, all the shards, and then first tier was Wampa Relic 3. So Wampa was the first tune. As soon as I got him 7-star, whatever I was doing, I dropped it, got him straight to Relic 3. I actually took her to Relic 5 because she just slaps in Grand Arena.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
I know.
But then, like, all right, so the next one is Commander Luke, right? So I was farming something else. Like, I was working on Veers for a second while I was shard farming him. Well, I almost got him done. Well, guess what? I got Luke 7-star. Now Luke's coming, Relic 3 as soon as I can, right? So if you're going to go absolute streamlined dedication, Jedi Master Luke will get you more bang for your buck at each step of the way if you do it properly, right? It'll get you very easy SOKR pivots on the side.
Yep.
But I think he is still one of the premier GLs in the game. I mean, you could say JMK, but now we're talking Watt Farm. So again, like, all right, how new are we talking with these accounts, and what kind of a guild are they in? Because if they're a baby account and we took them into BTI, well, we're getting some pretty decent stuff. Right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're gonna go to a brand new guild that just started out and everyone doesn't really know what they're doing yet.
Yeah.
Territory War, huge boon, right? Is the guild they're in even doing that? That affects what we're talking about too, because SOKR is huge for Territory War. But if you're not doing Territory War, are you competing at a high enough level in GAC where you need a GL? So efficiency really does come into play, I think, as well, depending on what you really want to do. I mean, it's still very flexible.
Yeah, and I'll say this when it comes to, do you need a GL at that point in time in the GAC? You could always use a GL, because the way the matchmaking is, I mean, I have my alt, who, it's on my iPad. It's one I don't take care of very much, just because I only do it at home. And when I remember to do it, it's like, oh yeah, I should do this stuff. So it hasn't really received much love after it slow farmed Bad Batch to Relic 5, and that's its only relics. But I get matched up with people, and I'm in the lowest of the low tiers. And I'm at like 1.15 mil. And I'm getting matched up with like 4 or 5 mils who have GLs at the very bottom of the bracket. So I think the answer is
Right, and
yes, you do
those
need a
kind of
GL.
efficiency accounts I was talking about, right? If
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're gonna dedicate absolute efficiency, like you can get to SLKR like 1.2 million,
yeah.
which is just ridiculous.
Yep.
Um,
All
but I
right.
think if you're willing to push for JML off the bat, though, I mean, you'll get a first order team for Ray, you'll get a JTR team, you'll get a Rebel team, you'll get a Jedi team. I mean, it's really good value if you follow that track right out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
But if you follow Arnold's guy, right, SLKR has a really good pivot towards X after you get Finalizer. But Finalizer is a hard grind off the hop, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about so much the bounty hunters themselves
Yeah.
for like the Chewie event because you don't need Millennium Falcon. But getting Xanadu blood, I mean, again, I've been farming on my main. I just finally got that stupid Ray's Millennium Falcon. I've been farming it for like 8 months. And I've done a lot
Ships
of
are
stars.
so slow to farm. They really are.
So I think the biggest thing, no matter what you do, if you're gonna be doing Grand Arena, it really does come down to ships.
Yeah, because that's another thing I didn't add on here because we don't have ship squads in the game.
They
But
were coming.
have they?
We were lied to. They said they were finally gonna bring it.
Yeah, I know, but
And they screwed up the gear. And
yeah,
then
I mean
and then they forgot about ships and thought nobody would know.
Well, I mean that's because they forgot about the gear updates. You know, so I mean it is what it is. But
what?
ships are also very important with GAC farms for sure. But all right, let's move on to early teams that you think should be farmed for raids. Specifically, kind of looking at towards the Crate Dragon raid. I got Hut Cartel and the Mandalorians as kind of my main. If you really wanted to, you could throw in Jawa. I just don't think they're worth their bang for their buck, getting them up that high.
So I do want to counter that point, actually, real fast.
Okay, go for it.
This is where I think this gets interesting, right? Because so Jawas, getting Jawas to Gear 12, super easy. I did it in my sleep. I mean, I'm still working on a couple of them right now. But there's no Cairo investment, right?
Yep.
Because they're so old, it's super cheap.
Yeah.
And them at super high relic doesn't get you too much more than them at Gear 12.
Uh-huh.
Right? So take them in at the Gear 12, get, 80% or whatever what they would get at Relic 7, like you watch people do on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the gear investment you get, to have a team that puts out the same value they get at that level. I mean, I think that's decent bang for buck there, right?
Yeah.
And if your guild's already doing crate and getting those rewards, getting Jawas to Gear 12 isn't going to be a huge deal. My issue with Jawa's viability, to counter my own point, to be fair, is shard farming them, right?
Yeah.
We still don't really have an idea what that looks like long term for that new currency conversion rate.
Yeah.
Because getting the new guild, getting the old guild currency is just so hard now.
It is, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there's at least one or two of them in that rotation because for the longest time, my main didn't even have. There's a couple Jawas that weren't 7-starred for a while that I actually went out of my way just to get them 7-star because those were slower times, unlike now where there's just like I got way too much to do here, just everywhere trying to farm these different things coming out.
You're streaming, right? Scroll through your guild activity real fast.
Huh?
Scroll through your guild store real fast. See what you got. I'm looking through mine, seeing who pops up. So again, right? Like so, Hermit Yoda being there for 1,250 Mark IIs. I mean, that's actually super cheap. I mean, I'm almost done with him right now. This is gonna be awesome because he's one of the last ones I need.
There's the engineer.
Rolo, right? We had someone join our guild that was like, "Oh my god, I need Rolo. I'm farming for such and such," and unfortunately, we were like, "That's great. We're not going back to Hoth for you."
Yeah, I mean it kind of feels a little bad because it's like, man, I wish we could get this guy Rolo because she's pretty good.
I will
But at
say
the
with
same
with the
time,
gear
I'm not
shift
going to
that they
bring an
pushed,
entire guild down for one
well,
person.
with the gear shift that they just did when they fixed it, though, I mean, it's actually it's not too bad.
No.
And getting them from Mark II currency, like now you have a couple different places to get them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like, are you actually able to get? I haven't seen Jawa in there yet.
There's an engineer. Engineer's in there. I had him on my screen for everyone to
Oh
see.
man, he's way towards the bottom. Okay.
Oh, mine's at the top.
Oh no, that's for the old currency. I'm talking about
Yeah.
for the new currency. New currency is way down low.
Yeah, I really wish they'd reworked that a little bit. Make it a little cleaner. Or maybe make it able so you could sort based on what you want to get so you don't have to scroll for a hot minute.
Oh,
Yeah.
dang, hold on a second. Yeah. Alright, so hold on. So you got Young Han, Chrono Strike, that's fine. Jawa, Gamora. Alright, so these are all the exclusives. So at least they categorize these, right? But keep going a little bit. Race gaps, those are just fun. Ewoks, that's cool. Zam. Okay, so now you have early game access to Zam for bounty hunters. So that's dope.
Yeah.
First Order, TIE Fighter, yeah, who cares? But Finn, so again, Log Ray, you need 3PO. Clones are nice.
Yeah.
Tusken Shaman. So Tuskens off the hop for the raid. Okay, they're not double charge farmable yet for Chieftain and Warrior, and they're eating into my Cantina grind, right? Because I'm going for Star Killer right now.
Okay.
So that's where most of my Cantina energy goes.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm done with that, it goes into Relic energy. Well, now I gotta stop doing Relic energy, or I gotta wait and make it take longer to single charge farm Warrior. Chieftain I can do, it's just gonna take a while, like the days of yore, but tail of me, right? Early on, I don't know. Do you think Tuskens are viable in GAC? I mean, so 3v3 is really fun. I'm really excited when I unlock Boba Fett, Cyan, and Django, but I'm hearing that Raider Omicron is not worth all the hype. So, like, do you think that's worth? See my Jawa argument, right? Like, you can get all 5 to gear 12 for a very low investment if your guild is already doing trade and earning. Well, I mean, even the old guild, right? Let me take that back. If your guild is earning a decent amount of the new raid materials, you can get Jawas to gear 12 very easy and do some damage, right? It won't be mega powerhouse, but it's something. I don't think Tuskas are as easy to get there, so for that reason, I think I'm gonna rank them number 2 behind Jawas, at least as we're going so far. But what are your thoughts?
So I am very much raid focused right now and just like early game farm. I don't think Tuskens are worth it. I don't think the Jawas are worth it very early game because I feel like there's other teams that in the long run are more helpful throughout your roster, but raid specifically, I just don't see them as a good early farm for the raid. I would rather focus on like the Mandalorians because you're gonna have Jango Fett who can help unlock Padme, Bo-Katan who is helping. Actually, Jango and Bo-Katan both help towards JMK. The Beskar armor Mando, Razor Crest for X, all of those other things. The cartel towards Jabba the Hutt. So that would be where I would go because the cartel is definitely going to lead towards Jabba eventually, who is almost, if you want to be hitting really high and getting a lot of those personal rewards, that along with the Mandalorians are probably your 2 biggest teams to get those rewards. So that's kind of why I went the raid direction I went. What do you think, Killjoy?
I actually do agree with the cartel and then Mandalorians because from what I've seen, BAM is actually really useful and kinda necessary for the Mandos to work, or at least from what I've seen. I could be wrong, and y'all can correct me on that.
He gets the Terminator train going.
Yeah, that's kind of been tuned down a bit, but he does do, if you can time the whistling birds right, along with your speed in the raid, him and Maul lead can definitely help quite a bit. with the damage output and dealing lots of damage with his whistling birds. So he's good, yeah.
Yeah, so it all comes down to how early then, at that point, the accounts are going to be trying to push the raid.
Yeah, I'm
For
kind
the simple fact, you got to get all the Mando crew
of...
done to get BAM.
Yep.
And that takes time.
Yep.
And not all of them are even viable for the raid. The only one out of that crew is Mando himself. And then BAM. So I would go Cartel, and also would have Boba available, because if you eventually get him high enough relic wise, say you're going for X or whatever, eventually knock him all the way to R8, and you can take him in solo and still do a big chunk. So I mean, that's a third viable team just with himself.
Yeah, and that was a good call, because I was actually going to do an honorable mention for him towards like the end of talking about the raids, but that was perfect. Because, yeah, he's someone who, for that reason, I didn't actually slot him into one of these teams, was because if you can do that trick, that can get you a good amount of points just outright.
Yeah. So I would think Hut Cartel / Bounty Hunters. Well, no, it would actually be Hut Cartel, not / Bounty Hunters, because they're not all Hut Cartel.
Correct.
But also just make sure you're farming for Boba as well, eventually, and the Mandos. Those are 2 / 3 good teams. And that's coming from somebody that has almost Relic 1 Jawas. So I love my Jawas, and they are super easy to gear.
Yeah.
Like Zesty said. But one of their biggest things are also mods. If they're not modded right, you aren't going to do hardly anything with them. So
yeah, I would.
I think Cartel, then Mandos would be a fine choice, but it all comes down to, are you relying on BAM or not?
Yeah. And I think he's a good help. I don't know if he's necessary, but I just kind of chose, okay, assuming these early accounts are not going to have easy access to Maul. I know recently, for like a month, they had all the Mandalorian characters available in the marquee events where you could get them, get the 50 shards for them, and start your journey. So that's kind of why I decided to include that, is because I'm kind of targeting those who are early game, who are like, 40 to like just reaching 85 and are really expanding into all this area now. What would be what we want to direct them? So that's why I kind of thought that would be a solid direction. Here in about a month or so, BAM might kind of simmer down, and, a different Mando might be a better suit, but I still think he's a good character just because you're going to need him for X and everything like that. So,
yeah, definitely. Dorito finally has a place.
I don't fully recall which fleet node. Is it Karga that's on the fleet node?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Deep in there, so at that point you also got to rely on having good enough ships to 3-star it to make that simmable.
Yeah. I don't think he's too deep into it, though.
He's 4C.
Is he 4C?
Yeah, he's pretty deep.
Okay, that's a little deeper than I thought.
He's a little
deep.
Yeah. Well.
But, I mean, I don't know if we're talking about fleet later or not, but bugs. I mean, it's
Geo bugs.
Yeah.
Dad did it. The way Grandpa
I was
did
thinking
it.
about that when we were talking about GAC. At least getting the first 4.
I think
Spy.
that's the perfect segue into our territory war teams.
Oh, yes, that's perfect.
Because with territory war, I have bugs. Buggers, bugs, whatever you want to call them.
Geos.
They are becoming, once again, they used to be a big staple team, then they kind of washed out a little bit. But with the introduction of Pago the Lesser's Omicron, which, yes, I have not done yet, they have absolutely become a staple. They are very hard to beat if you don't know how to do it. If you don't have a sturdy enough team, you are going to falter even with a lower level Geo team. So I have them, and then I got Padme. I mean, we rely on Padme as well for defensive holds quite a bit. So these were the two teams I think early on, they're pretty easy to farm. The Brood Alpha is a little bit of a later farm, but you can supplement some other Separatists into that spot and still have good effectiveness with bugs.
So early game Newt Gunray on the War Farm.
Yeah.
War Farm? Yeah.
Galactic War Farm, yeah.
Yeah, he carried me and my alt account through the war.
Yep.
Leading Seppies while I was grinding my way through the Cantina tables for Brood Alpha.
Yeah.
And then gearing them, I mean, honestly, I mean, I know I see yours right there. Yours are gear 12. I took all of mine to Relic 1 just to bump the fleet up just a hair more.
Yeah.
They outperform. They really do.
Yeah, that's always been one of my things where I've looked at them and I've thought, you know, for my Malevolence fleet, it'd be really nice to get some of them up higher, especially Sunfac, who's always my lead with the Hyena Bomber and the Vulture Droid. And Sunfac, I feel like I should relic him. It's just been I've got so many other projects I'm running right now. So
yeah, I relic Foggle so you wouldn't feel left out. And then the Omi came, and I was like, see, this is why I did it. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, you probably average, what, like 3 or 4 holds a territory war with this?
I can't, yeah, it depends. So, I mean, now, because we have so many teams that are all red, right, or that are pretty much, more or less the same.
Yeah.
It really depends on, who the heavies attack first.
Yeah.
If they happen to scroll through and go, oh, that looks fun, and they pick me, I might get done in one battle.
Yeah.
Then, like, there was one I had, like, 6 holds. And there was one I had, like, 2 or 3. And
yeah.
there was one I got wiped in 1 again. So it really depends on who they attack first.
Yeah.
And that's the fun thing about Geo is they, even a full Gear 12 like your team with just a Relic GBA, that is so often mistaken as, oh, that's going to be easy, and then all of a sudden it's preloaded, and now a team that should have died in 1 hit has taken 4 or 5 different teams, and just helps secure a victory because they've wasted too many teams. Now they can't clear everything, and if the mods are right, everything relies on mods. If those are right,
that's actually a good point, right? Especially early on, because when you talk about like people, so where you're at Orange, and we're like, where people, I have every chip in the game kind of a thing, right? You got profundity, or you're going for profundity. When you're early on, incomplete teams can be underestimated in some really fun ways, and as long as you know how the synergies work, that'll put you on top more than raw power will. I just want to point that out, whether we're talking about Territorial War or Grand Arena. Right? If you know how the team works, like I have, we have in our Territorial War lineup, right? It says 95,000 Night Sisters and up, and mine regularly are 93,000 with a Relic 3 Asajj.
Yep.
But they consistently get at least 2 battles every Territorial War. Because someone goes, oh, the only relic they have is Asajj. That's whatever.
Yeah.
But my zombie is like Gear 12 plus 4.
Yeah.
Right? They don't check mods. Because who checks mods? No one checks mods.
They should.
So they almost always chump at least one team and then require a cleanup. So early on, especially in Grand Arena, because now it's where most of your crystal flow goes.
Yeah.
Like figure out who you need, and then like Killjoy is saying, mods are super important depending on the team. Like for the Padme team, right? Leveling your bugs gets you Padme almost by default because it's Separatists. But Padme's protection upscales on her health. So even at low tier, as long as you stack the booty, the health will spread into protection across the field, and you can still get that kind of viability. You just got to know how to do it, right? So again, synergy over power all day.
Yeah. And if you need a video to help you out with synergy or mods, I do have those, so definitely check them out. But is there any teams, let's go with a team each. Zesty, what would be a team that if you wanted to, for an early farm, would you add to this territory war category?
Let me pull up what I'm actually running right now. I actually loaded into my alt real fast. So I farmed Beskar Mando, right? So I'm running a Beskar Mando team, Cleo, IG, Stormtrooper Han, and Cara Dune.
Okay.
Kind of, this is the best of what I got to work with right now.
Okay.
Commander Luke, Obi-Wan, R2, Farm Boy, and Princess Leia, right? So that's a decent Rebel lineup.
Okay.
Commander Luke's decent. Farm Boy Luke's got a Territory War Omicron.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of want to put it on. Like, just a little bit. I just don't have the materials yet.
All right, so if you had to choose one team, what would it be?
I think the Commander Luke team.
Commander Luke and Rebels.
I mean, I think Commander Luke is. I know we were saying, early farms, SLKR push to go, but Commander Luke carries me through conquest on my main.
Yeah.
Right? With Han and Chewie and then 3-5 and 3PO. So I think early on, putting him at the lead of all the rebels it took to get him, and if you invest in some of the clutch ones you need to get, like Jedi Knight Luke,
yeah,
I think there's a lot of viability there. He hits like a truck.
Mm-hmm. All right, what do you got, Killjoy? You got one team to add to this territory list.
So since we're going with territory lists and whatnot, and I actually can't think of a different team than Geos and CLS, I'm going to go with the Captain Phasma Ami.
There we go. I was hoping someone would pull that out.
We talked about it earlier. I mean, I might as well just throw the SLKR grind out again.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it's even today's economy, it's not a bad grind because it is such a wide variety usage team. Because, yeah, you can use all those ones that don't go with your GL and just make a whole nother team that's really good at territory wars. That's another Omi I do want to place eventually.
I think the difference for me, if I was going to start a new account today, right? And if I had the two choices between going for Java and going for SLKR, it's
Java.
Where's my account currently living right now, right? Like if I'm just playing for me and I'm in a nobody guild and there's no coordination, I'm going to go SLKR because that benefits me in every aspect of the game that's solo. Yep. Right? If my brand new account is in a guild that's running crate, pushing Java gets me crate teams.
Yep.
That then explodes every other grind that I have.
Yeah.
Now that Pit's gone, SOKR lost some of that. He didn't lose viability in any game mode, but he lost that kind of importance factor for that first big push.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I agree. And I'm not going to lie, I'm about to, after we get done with this video and whatnot, I'm going to hop on my alts and see where I am on the newer ones and probably pivot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I pivoted my alt, actually. Like, I'm getting JKL, and then I'm scooching over to Java's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to get JML in the background, but I got to work on some more first order for BB-8, and then Ray, and then Jedi Train Ray, and I got to level up 3 other teams just to get one guy. Whereas like I can scooch over and start getting some raid teams and Hut Cartel. And I'm so glad they did thermal detonators. I've been running like a really wonky Boba Fett lead thermal detonator team that I started when I was running through Galactic War in the early stage of the game, right? But Greedo, I think, was like gear 8. I stopped touching him, but like he could hang.
Yeah.
But thermal detonators were not to be slouched on, Like you get some early access to that
Oh yeah.
with Dengar. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was awesome, and now they got Boosh. Oh, it's so dirty.
Speaking of which, we're gonna move on to our territory battles where, on my screen, I got the hut. Because when it comes to territory battles, if you're gonna be building for your future, Hut Cartel might not be the fastest grind right now, but I believe Job of the Hut is ultimately going to be your goal if you're going to do a TB. Because eventually you're going to be in a guild who rolls up to ROTE just because of the massive benefits of all the currency you get. You get to run it twice a month instead of having to be like, oh, a dark side and light side. It's like, nope, you can run it. You can use all your characters, dark or light, twice a month in this. So nice. So I think Job of the Hut, working towards him. So doing the Hut Cartel, doing the Rebels. I got Rebels on this list as well, just because you get them working towards Job of the Hut. And I do have an honorary Shaktian clones built in there. Oops. A little sensitive there on the phone. But those are kind of the three teams I would say early on. They're good farms. Like we've mentioned before, Rebels with CLS. I personally have always enjoyed Shaktian clones, and throughout some of my alt accounts, I've noticed they're not terribly hard to get. Arc you get a little later, but it is a Cantina farm. So once you unlock the ability to farm him, he is very easy to build up. And the rest of them are very easily accessible earlier on in stores. Shakti is probably the biggest pain out of that, but still is not a terrible grind. So, what are some of your guys' thoughts?
So I think if we're talking about like brand new guilds running, okay, and if we're talking about efficiency,
Yep.
a Palpatine lead with Vader and Snowtrooper get you into all the special missions you need on Hoth.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
On the light side, you know, similar concept. You need Phoenix. You need. I think there's Rogue One involved there, right? So a couple of teams you can work on that way. Rogue One. I mean, you can go for profundity, but you need to be looking at R8, R9 for that. If you're not there, I wouldn't invest in Rogue One for. So stick with Rebels. Stick with Rolo. You know, start getting the Rolo shards, and then make a team, put Rolo on it, and get event battle done. For Geo, the shock troops. You know, shock troops are nice. Yeah. On the dark side, you know, your separatists are going to be good. Geo droids. Let's see, who's the one? Imperial troopers. Somebody was saying that, you know, Imperial troopers aren't all that good in Geo, and I gotta say, I have just fun.
Yeah.
Like, I can't spell fun without Imperial troopers.
Yeah. You have a weird phonetics, but I agree. And funny enough, recently with my alt, I was going to send it to Wham, Weekend at Mando's, but you guys had filled. And we're 50 out of 50 when I was looking, so I decided, you know what? I got this video.
Open again.
Huh?
Someone left the door open again.
That's all good. It actually allowed me to go through and look and be like, okay, let's look at guilds who are accepting my level of character. You know, I'm level 63 right now. I'm sure by the end of the TIE Dagger farm I got going, I'm going to be 65. I'm going to be ready for events. But I was like, you know what? For someone of my size and area, what are the guilds that I'm looking and available for me to get into? What are they running? Believe it or not, about 70% of the guilds that were accepting my level of player were doing some sort of Geonosis TB. I did not see a lot of Hoth. There's a few who were dark side, Geo, light side Hoth still.
You remember what the guild GPs were?
They range from, they were about like around 100 mil to about 200 mil. There was several that were above that doing ROTE, and I'm like, for my small of an account, that does not work. Like, I don't belong in those guilds. Like, I know my place in the galaxy base of my GP, and it's not up there. So I was looking typically for around 100 million guilds, because that would be about max of where I'd really want to join in, up to about 1.5. And most of those, like I said, they were running some form of Geo, which is kind of what altered my view of, okay, so if you're going to get into one of these guilds, what would really benefit them? And so if you get your rebels, if you get your shock clones, if you have Imperial Troopers was a really good call out. Bugs would be another good one. Jabba the Hutt's eventually going to be a big help. It's a future one, but Hutt Cartel, I do believe, would, even before Jabba, still do very well on the dark side. So
here's another little makeshift team that you will have available for dark side.
Okay.
Is just basic Empire. You'll have a Vader, a Thrawn, Emperor Palpatine. Just from having the teams available for those journey guides gives you another team out there.
Yep.
That is either usable for it can be used in TW for offense or defense, depending on which lead you're going with.
Yeah.
Then TB, you can fill plats or do actual CMs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just another thing of playing the game and finishing the journey guides. Constantly check your journey guides to see what you can complete, because nobody mentioned having a Jedi team for anything as well, and it only takes 5 to get Master Yoda.
Yeah.
Which he's extremely useful. So, I mean, there's other teams that you would be working on that unlock something else that will help improve or give you another team for everything we've talked about. The only thing it doesn't help you at is with the raid. And that's just because
he had
they're
a mostly Jedi team with his Padme wall, right? I guess
yeah. Padme had quite a few Jedis. It had my mace. It had. Let me go back to that.
But again, you got to talk about where is its account living, right? Because General Kenobi is not necessarily early stage.
I mean, it's not early, but I'm actually unlocking it myself on. I have him 5-star unlocked on a level 65 account because we've been doing heroic Sith.
Yeah.
And with the new update of currencies, it's made it really easy to get those fragments. So if you were to, say, focus on one of the raid characters, whether it's Traya or GK, it can be fairly quick. It's just a matter of, would you rather spend the currency on those fragments or on gear?
Yeah.
Gear.
So, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, you're fine.
Yes, I was thinking and I wasn't actually paying attention to your Padme team.
Oh, that's good. That was also just in the territory war area. So adding that to the territory battles, it's still a good call because Padme is still useful even in the Geolight side. So absolutely nothing wrong with that.
You need your Zeta for that though, right? Like just a key point there with her leader ability, right? Don't you need the Zeta for that?
It's helpful, yeah.
It might be necessary, but I honestly don't recall if it's necessary or not. I just know I've had it since I've had her, so.
Yeah, it's a very helpful Zeta. Definitely one of the top Zetas early on when you do get her. Very viable. And also a character that, once again, stretches through... it's a good GAC character, good territory war, good territory battle character. So you can't really go wrong with that Zeta, because unlike an Omicron, a Zeta is active in any game mode. So as where an Omicron only activates in that certain one. So When it comes to Zetas,
Yeah.
I'm a little more loose just because you can use it anywhere in the game of Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah, the Zeta is only for when they have protection up, light side, resist all debuffs, and can't be critted.
Yeah, which is nice when you can't be crit. Alright. Well, thank you guys for hopping on and having this lovely chat with me. I think it's been fun. It's been productive. But I do want to end this segment with one last piece of advice. If you're someone who is coming to this game just because you love Star Wars and you're like, I don't really care about any of those, then here's a 5th category just for you. Farm whatever you want to farm. Eventually, in some way, shape, or form, it might be a good, viable team. I remember back when I started, I absolutely loved clones. Clones were my favorite characters, all this and that. Absolutely loved them. Commander Cody, you're my man. First character I ever took up to Relic 5. Loved him. Not very usable now, but all of the other clones I had with him, whether it be with Shock T or Gas, have played a vital role and still do in my current roster at 7.6 mil. So if you're coming in here and you're like, I just want to play, it's Star Wars, I love it, farm what you want. If you enjoy a certain faction, you love playing with them, go for it. At the end of the day, you gotta enjoy the game. It's all about the enjoyment, having fun while you do it. Otherwise, it just turns into a grind and it's like a job. I feel like I could say this for all of us here. That's kind of happened before to us, where it's like, this just feels like a job. So, and I'm sure you guys would agree with that.
Well, of course, here's the flip side of that, right? So I love the Murder Bears,
Yeah.
as I call them. So I leveled up my Ewoks, all the Gear 12, just because, and I put the Omi on Chirpa.
Mm-hmm.
And unless the Bears are like Relic 3, you really don't capitalize on that Omicron.
Yeah.
So, farm was fun, but also temper your investment in a smart fashion.
Yeah.
And learn from the mistakes of others.
But you know what? If they
Omicrons are
add Endor Leia as the next GL because the Rebels need a GL, baby.
God, I
Guess
can't
who
wait
they're
to
going to
know.
make you Relic?
Please.
The Murder Bears.
Give me a bear unit. I
So,
cannot wait.
I really hope for you that happens, because I think eventually, as long as this game's been going, it's going to turn into that where they're going to have...
They're out of people they haven't used as requirements yet.
They've doubled
already
up before.
They've already started doubling a little bit now, yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to come out with some more Rebels. I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't try and do anything with like a Rebel soldier as a Rebel, They already have like a Hoth Scout and a Hoth Soldier. Why not do an Endor Rebel or Endor Soldier, I'm sure that's come down the pipeline. But you know what? That's for a whole nother video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you stuck through it this long, you know what? I probably owe you a subscribe, but if you could hit that subscribe and the like button, that would be awesome. But, as always, have yourselves a great time, and peace.